Hello, welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to take a look at this Sanyo MG11 personal cassette player, and this one's from the mid-80s, and we can tell that actually by the date code here of 84. So there we go then, back when bright colours were all the rage, and why wouldn't they be? Quite a simple unit, to be honest. No radio, no equaliser, no auto reverse, no metal tape facility, no Dolby, just a simple player, but it does have play, stop, fast forward and rewind. Also comes with its wire-band headphones of the time as well. So this one, to be honest, has been sitting around for a little while in the workshop. It's been looking at me all the time, and it's time to get it sorted. So let's see what we've got, see what's wrong with it. Okay, the box itself incidentally isn't too bad overall. Someone's used some big pieces of sellotape obviously in the past, which has discoloured and gone yellow, which isn't the prettiest thing in the world, but can't have it all. So here's the warranty card. Too late to be filling that in now, but there we go, always nice to have. And the operating instructions are just here. So obviously the key features, batteries, charging, well not charging, but the power point there, so 3-volt positive pin, and general care and maintenance. Oh, nice shirt, look at that, beautiful. Okay, so he's looking hip and cool, ready to go. So let's see what's in the box. The original bag here actually, which is quite nice, so that's good. We'll have a look at the main unit in a second. So we've got the lanyard here for obviously for hanging it around your neck. That one's still brand new, still sealed in the bag, that's cool. And here are the wire band headphones. So we just see they're fairly simple units, and yeah, branded. Don't know if that will focus or not, but you get the gist of it really. The original foam pads are on there. They've normally disintegrated by now, but actually these are in pretty good condition, so that's cool. Anyways, that's those. So let's see what's actually up with this unit then. Okay, here it is. So straight away we can see that it's a bit scruffy, it's a bit faded. It's obviously been well used, well loved, covered in lots of little surface scratches. Not the end of the world, but shows it's been appreciated, I guess. And as I say, we've got the play, stop, fast forward and rewind on there. Nice little chrome details as well. And on the top here is your DC input, battery status, so operation LED just there, simple volume potentiometer, a high tone and low tone switch, just a simple switch for EQ just on the top, and a single headphone out. So that's what we've got on the top just there. Nothing else much to report, to be honest. It's got a built-in belt clip, and also I believe these were used with cases as well, and I think these little nodules on the side were designed to help it lock into a carry case that was available for this as well. But anyway, there we go. So that's the unit. Let's give it a go, see if it works. So first thing is we'll get some batteries in. Okay, well, it's playing. Fast forward and rewind also seem to work, which is good. So that's that, and we may as well just try it with the power as well whilst we're at it from the mains. I do have here somewhere, here we go, a power supply, 3 volts positive tip, and let's just try that as well. Okay, good. Bit noisy. Let's have a look. Yeah, that bounce, I think the bounce a bit loose. There's not a great deal of resistance there. We'll find out actually. Let's plug in some speakers. Got my JSX37 speakers just here as usual. So we'll just plug them in, find a tape. Just drop a tape in there and see what happens. Okay, it's quite noisy with the tape in there. Volume's on max. Oh, hang on. Oh. Alright, well that headphone jack doesn't work. It's very loose. Okay, well what I can notice from this then is, let me just stop the tape. It's very loose, it's very wobbly, you can probably see that moving around. That's generally quite a common thing, to be honest. Normally you'll find that the contacts have gone dry inside, or there might be a damaged trace or something like that as well. So let's just try again. Yeah, there's a very specific, if you imagine it like a compass or something, there's a very specific direction that will work there. Anywhere else, and it just doesn't work at all. So hang on, where is it? There. And as you can hear from that as well, what it's obviously doing, yeah, I was about to say, it's obviously not playing properly either. It sounds dreadful on playback. And then if we try and fast forward and rewind it, you can see that struggling. If you look at the markers on the reels, yeah. Alright then, so what do we know? Basically, it looks like it needs a new belt in terms of the operation. So we'll get a belt on there. It also needs the headphone socket looking at, probably a broken trace or a dry joint or something on the board. And then we'll give it a decent polish, and that should be it. So 3 little jobs to do today. Let's get on with it. So the first thing we'll do, I think, is just move the speakers out of the way. Power lead out, cassette out. And I'm going to put this up on a bit of foam. Right, okie dokie. So the MG11's got 4 screws to remove. And there we go, the case is away with its little bit of shielding and the ribbon for the batteries, and that's it. So that can go to one side. The 4 screws are the same length, so you haven't got to worry about mixing them up. Yeah, straight away I can see that belt is loose. I'll just bring this in a little bit for you. But it's a little bit on the floppy side just there. It's not too bad. Well, we know that because it was actually, technically it was working. It was kind of pulling the spindles, but, well, turning the capstan anyway. But yeah, not great. In fact, we can plug that in and just try that again here. Let's have a look. Right, here, ready? And yeah, you can see it sort of wobbling. Also, it's an interesting one. It's a crossover one. So it's one where it's got an out of line motor there for, I think, for more for space constraints more than anything else, because there is an inductor there. There's a coil just on the circuit board, and this is sort of tilted over, and in order to keep the belt running true, it has a twist in it, so make sure we just get the orientation of the twist right. Okie dokie. So as I say, we can get that belt off, I think. Actually I won't do that right now because I want to check this. I did want to check the headphone socket, didn't I? So let's just have a look at that a minute. Ah, yeah, I can see that straight away, actually. Straight away. Yeah, we've got a broken trace there. There it is. Yeah, plain as day. And that's why when we pushed it in one particular direction, it made just enough of a contact to carry the signal. And as soon as you let go, the trace break was evident, and it would stop playing outside. Okay, good. So we know what that is. Now then, we could, at this juncture, we could actually get the belt off. Just thinking about this. You can, I believe, on these. Let me just have a quick look. Pretty sure, yeah, that belt would just about slip out of there. You can see it's deformed. Yeah, quite dry. It's about a 2-inch belt, probably about 50mm, something like that. So we'll get a replacement belt for that in a moment. But first things first, what we're going to do with this headphone jack. I don't think there's any need to remove that board, to be honest. I think we can get away with leaving that in situ. I think what I'll probably do is just reflow the other ones for the headphone and put a bridge in there, I think. So I'm just going to scrape back some of this trace just to see if we can bridge it or not. Okay, well that's all scraped back a bit now. What I'll probably do is just try and cross that now. I'll try and bridge that with perhaps a transistor tail or something, and then just get some hot glue to hold everything in place. And I'll also just reflow the other joints for the headphone socket as well. That should make a nice secure connection. So let's get the hot glue warmed up. I always keep a little pot of tails from capacitors, transistors, that sort of thing. They're great for bridging little joints. Well, first up, I'm just going to reflow these joints a minute and tin up that trace. Good. Okay, so I'll just check with the continuity meter. Make sure we've got everything from the ground here. Yep, so that seems to be okay. And we've also got continuity on that broken trace, which means in theory we would have sound now, apart from the fact I've already taken the belt off, so we can't run it, but I reckon that'll be okay. So what I am going to do though is just drop in for reinforcement a little bit of a transistor tail just here. And that's more of a sort of mechanical aid as well. There we go. Beautiful. Just the job. So that should have worked nicely. There we go. Lovely. And actually that's a lot more solid already, which is great. What I will do, it's no clean flux, however I will clean it, partly just because I like to, and partly because if we can get a nice clean surface just here. My little UV curing light's packed up, so I can't put any mask on there, but I can put some hot glue, which I was going to do anyway, as a belt and braces thing over the contact lugs. So I'll just put a bit of hot glue over them. That will also insulate it. I've also got some insulation tape I could have put over the top, but I think the hot glue that we use to retain the actual lugs here will do the job anyway. So I don't think there's any need for a jumper cable. So just going to put a little bit of hot glue just over the mounting points. Always a bit of a mess doing this, but it's as good a method as anything. Good. That should be nice and solid now. Hopefully that one's fixed, and then we can just move on to replace the belt. Okay, well the original belt's here, and I make that about a 50mm, so I've got a bunch of belts here. I use Deck Tech for most of the belts. I get the occasional comment, tongue-in-cheek really, I guess, I know, but about the wow and flutter on some of the cheaper units that I do on the channel. And truth be told, I haven't always got the exact correct decent belt to hand, so I'll mock it up with a cheap one just for demonstration purposes, really, just to show you, you know, at the end of the day, these are just for a bit of a fun and a bit of a poke around, and we get them up and running again. And great instructional videos, hopefully, for those of you that that do actually want to repair and change the belts and stuff on your own Walkmans and things. And thank you very much, by the way, for the comments that I get on that. It's great that these videos do help you. and that's awesome. But yeah, I was just saying that I kind of generally use a decent belt under the condition that if it's worth something and it's going to actually get used, that's great. And also things like MG34 DTs, Sanyo M440, stuff like that, where you've got a lot of work to actually get to the belt. The last thing you want to do is use a really rubbishy belt, because obviously well, they're decent quality units and you want to get the best out of them, but also at the end of the day, if it's all wobbly and horrible when you listen to it, it's an absolute pig of a job to then go back in and change it for another cheap belt and hope for the best. Much easier just use a decent belt in the first place. But sometimes I will use a fairly cheap and nasty generic one just for demonstration purposes, just to show you, especially if it's something that you can literally whip the back off, change the belt within a minute or two. Then, I can mock it up with a cheap belt and then go and order a decent one and replace it after the video's finished. That's kind of what I do. But you can see, I've used quite a lot of decent belts here. The one I've got, I believe I need, is a 50mm one. So let's get that one on now. Now I'm going to sort of cheat a bit. Yeah, that looks spot on to me. That looks perfect. So I think I'm going to try and cheat. You can actually just withdraw or remove the little screw in the middle, and should be able to move the belt, move the circuit board, I should say, out of the way. But I'm just going to see whether or not I can actually do this without removing the board, just out of interest more than anything else. Ah, there we go. I thought it was going to be quicker to start on that side. It was actually quicker to start on the reverse. But there we go. So that's got the belt on. Now we've got to put the twist in it, if you remember. So we turn it like so. Check there are no twists apart from the single obvious one in there. That should be that. So what I'm going to do now is get the, where are we? Get the power lead in, get the headphone socket plugged in there, get a tape in, and we'll go from there. So hopefully two things will happen. One is we'll get sound. Two, the aeroplane overhead will fly over quite quickly, one would hope. And a bonus third one is that the headphones should work. So let's see what happens. Daddy isn't coming. He's gotta stay. Freedom's the price they pay. Okay, good news is the actual tape is running nicely, and we've also got definite volume out of one speaker. The other one is not working though. So that's a little bit odd. Let's just try again here. Okay, so a few minutes later, I've just hooked up some cables just to the headphones themselves here, and if I press play and inject the signal directly and bypass the headphones, you can hear, let's have a look. Okay, and that side. So both the outputs are working all right, but what's happening for whatever reason, if I just take them back off a minute, it's almost there. I mean, they're actually on now, but just comes and goes. I've reflowed everything, and yeah, it doesn't seem to be cutting out now, weirdly. But I've reflowed them all again. I did the headphone points and indeed the volume part as well, and I cleaned the volume part. But yeah, it's just a little bit intermittent, which is a bit frustrating, and I think we may end up having to remove the actual board after all and substituting the headphone socket. But my money's still on this earth though. I think it feels a bit sketchy on there. I reckon it might just not be on the chassis very well. Let me just try this again. Let's have a look. Yeah, no, it's really hard to tell and to demonstrate to you guys, because with the headphones on you can hear it, but it seems like when if I was to bridge the earth, let me just do this. If I just bridge this, yeah, I'm just going to reflow that again and see if that fixes it for the final time, because it looks all right. I don't know, it all looks all right to me. It's just that when I put a piece of, if I try and bridge that, it just seemed like it was working better. Let's try this one more time. Unless, of course, the trace has lifted as well. It might be that the trace has actually lifted as well. I'm going to work on this while I'm... Here we go. Right. Right, we've only got one speaker. This one doesn't work at the moment, so here we go. What I did do just now, whilst I was messing about with these little cables just to check the output signal, is I did actually resolder the left speaker thing there, the actual solder point. But yeah, I don't know. I might need to actually take the board back out and refit the entire socket. It's hard to tell at the moment whether it's just the loose or a faulty headphone jack, or whether it is still a issue with the board. Right, I think I've sorted it. So basically what I did is I've just sucked out the solder again and basically refitted it. So the original bridge that we repaired is absolutely fine, but there were almost like internal fractures inside. So by sucking all the original solder out and redoing the entire lot, I think we fixed it. Right, let's just try that one more time then with the headphone, with the speakers. And if I pull them out, put it back in, oops. So almost having had it there, just doesn't seem to want to take for some reason, and I held it fairly tight and wiggled the cable around, so I know the actual socket itself should be okay. It is genuinely a connection issue to the board or an issue within the board. So having taken this mounting screw out, we're now sort of retained, but these can be a bit tricky and troublesome to get out and get back where we want them to put them back in, as it were. So I'm just going to instead desolder the battery terminals. There we go. That will allow us now just to get access to the board like so. Right, okay, well here's our troublesome, let's get you in. Basically here's our jack socket, and that should be, it should be okay. Feels a little bit loose, but ugh. Now which one of you is loose? Why is it? I can feel it rocking. Right, I'm just going to desolder the whole thing, and I know it means our lovely little bridge has got to come back out, but this is getting a bit tiresome now, so I'm just going to take this out. So annoying really, because that bridge we put in, it really didn't want to come out there, and it was sticking really well. But anyway, here's our headphone jack. There she is, and that mounting point there feels a bit loose. I'm not quite sure how loose that's supposed to be actually. Let's just put this in. Yeah, could just be that needs to be repaired internally. Feels tighter. Right, let's give this a go. Okay. I was just about to show you the original trace that was missing, if you remember. Right, can you see that brown splodge just by the tweezers there? That's the original trace that was missing, which is why we had to bridge it. But yeah, sure enough, there's actually an issue there on the earth. So I think all that messing about we just did, do you remember we kept saying that we were trying to resolder that particular earth one back on? There it is there somewhere. Yeah, so I think what it is actually that was probably torn or broken as well through the excessive movement that's been in there, and that one needs to be picked up as well and taken somewhere else. So we've basically just tightened up the, hang on, where are we? Hang on. Got cables everywhere, it's carnage at the moment. Right, let's just take one jack here. This is for the headphones. So basically that is now nice and snug on there. The metal's not loose, everything's tickety boo. So I'm hopeful what we can do now is remount this onto the board. Might be easier said than done, but once we remount that to the board, we should be able to button it all back up and then run some new links. Right, okay, let's sort that out then. Okay, so we're pretty much there. That's all refitted. Right, just screwed the board back down. Let's just try this one more time. And here we go. Yeah, it's still not happy, but if we can just add a bit of wire somewhere, there we go. Let's try this again. Yeah, it does seem like that might be part of the problem, to be honest. So I think what I'm going to do, just put a little jumper from there across. Just see if that makes any difference. Right, that's working absolutely fine now. Right, I think we finally cracked it. Essentially, whilst there was a broken trace here, which we identified immediately because it was obvious, the other one was the bad earth on the headphone socket, and that had basically rocked away and ripped away the trace on the end there on the earth. And I kept sort of soldering it, and it seemed like it was contacting and wanting to bite, but it was intermittent at best. So I just put a tiny little jumper cable in there, and that's bridged the gap. It's actually made it mechanically quite solid as well. But I'm just going to drop some hot glue just over that, just to seal it all in, and I'll get these battery terminals soldered back on. And that should be that, and then all we need to do is give it a polish. Okay, so we've just covered everything up safely, got some hot glue in there as well, just as a mechanical belt and braces. Got the wires taped back into place, so we'll just get the back on now. Obviously the belt is all done, we're happy with all of that. So hopefully we don't foul anything when we put this back together again. Yep, that seems like it all goes back okay, which is great. So we'll get these screws in and give it a polish. One final test just whilst it's together, and there, and power. Honestly, I've got so many cables here today. Right, here we go, try that. Good, happy with that. Right, let's give this thing a darn good clean, and then we'll be back with a final reveal. So here it is then, the MG11 from Sanyo from the mid-1980s. Not a bad little unit, not particularly feature packed, but at least this particular example had its original box, headphones and paperwork, so that's always kind of cool. It wasn't without its problems though, namely the belt was slipping, so we've addressed that by way of a new 50mm by 1mm square belt, so that's sorted that issue out. Also, the headphone socket seemed to be problematic as well. There was no audio coming out, so we ended up faffing around far more than we probably should have done. Would have been easier just to have replaced it, I expect. Having said that, a couple of the traces were torn, so we would have had to have sorted those anyway. So we've bridged those and fixed that, so it now works nicely. And finally, she just had a bit of a clean and polish. Not perfect by any stretch, but I don't mind a bit of a patina and a bit of wear and tear. That's all good. So, also as well, did clean the capstan and the pinch roller and the head. They weren't filthy, but always worth doing whilst we're going through these. So there she is then. She's had a bit of a clean and polish, got a new belt. We think the electronics are all working nicely. All it remains is to give it a quick trial. So we'll just press play now. There we go, a little bit of Genesis, and we're on rewind and fast forward. You can see that's nice and strong and fast now, and again play once more. There we go, lovely. So I think that's all I've got for you today. So if you did like the video or found it interesting, please do give it a like and consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. Thank you as well to existing subscribers. Your continued support is always greatly appreciated. Thank you very much indeed. I'll be back soon with some more vintage audio gear, but in the meantime, stay safe and I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.